this is the one I'm really hot on right now, but I know that this is the middle of an album song. This isn't the first song that people hear. This is the one that they need, an introduction first to then be able to digest. So I try and be as objective as possible, knowing full well that me as the artist and producer, I'm never going to be able to be totally objective. I try my best. So hopefully and thankfully it's paid off a little bit.
Yeah, well, speaking of which, I mean, just coming down to the songs on the album that you did select and to be part of it. I mean, were there some songs that didn't make it on the album? Were some of the songs on the album stuff that you may have not have wanted on another album? Can you kind of tell me that process?
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, there were so many ideas in general that didn't make it on the album. And then beyond that, there was, probably 5 or 6 almost finished recordings that I was never able to get the recording to click exactly how I wanted it to. That process of like kind of pulling everything into focus. I was trying and it just never really happened, which to me is just an indication that maybe the song isn't ready yet to be fully born. So there was definitely a few songs that just didn't make it. Not to say that they won't ever come out, because, I might open up one of those songs off my hard drive in a week and a half and all of a sudden the missing piece is there. You never know. So there was definitely many of those. And then there was songs that at first I never would have envisioned would have been on there, because I didn't have, the right material to write them yet. And there was 2 in particular, a song called Give It Up and a song called All I Know, which were the last 2 songs that I did for this album. Literally, I think about a week and a half before the last mixing date, I wrote these songs, and I just felt so strongly about them that, I never even went to a proper studio. I was sitting at home in my studio, and I started playing my piano and, brought a bunch of guitars out, had some hand drum, and they turned out great. And it's funny how sometimes at the very end, you get a few songs that feel very definitively like they want to be on this project, like they were just waiting to come out, and finally did, and then I can't really deny them their place on there, because I can see so clearly how much they fit in with the rest of them. But I think there will always be songs that don't make it. Like I said, I think I probably have 10,000 voice memos on my phone of things that have amounted halfway to something, or haven't. That's a huge part of it for me. So I try not to force it too much, and I try to just, like I said, let each one come into focus, and the ones that are working out, all the puzzle pieces are coming together, and I can really bring into the focus, are the ones that end up making the cut.
Yeah, there's always that thing in the back of your mind about having, what is it? There's an old commercial, no wine before it's time. So it's like, it's one of those things where you may have an idea for a song, but that idea comes to you, or you're walking down the street and then it'll come right to you, like bam, this is what I need to put the end of the song to. So sometimes it's just the way it happens, creative mind happens to work. So absolutely understand that as well. I mean, several musicians are the same way, so I understand that.
Yeah.
And now with songwriting, do you tend to have music first, or do you have tendency to have lyrics first, or is it a combination of both most of the time?
I think as I've gotten older, I've actively tried to break down any process that I start to develop of which one to do first, because ultimately, when I was first starting to write songs, when I was a little kid, I would just start playing the guitar, or I would start singing something. There was never a method behind it. And that's when I made my best work. And that's when the most authentic thing came out. It's like, the idea might be coming, and you just got to be ready to catch the idea and pull it down to earth when it hovers past. And I think when I get too ingrained in a certain philosophy about songwriting, or a certain way of doing it, whether it be, I'm going to take these lyrics and turn them into a melody, or let me write some chords and then put some lyrics over them, whatever it may be, I usually start to write things that are a little bit more rigid and less authentic. So honestly, I try to just let it happen and be ready when it wants to happen. And whether that means, I'm going to pick up a guitar, or I'm going to pick up a bass or a piano or whatever. Maybe that means that I'm going to sit here and pull up a bunch of violin samples and start playing, with violin sounds on my keyboard. I just want to be ready for that moment, and I don't want to judge however that wants to come out. So, that being said, I mean, I love writing. I write daily, whether it be poems or just, little short stories or whatever. And I definitely source, sometimes I'll have something like that. And I might have wrote it a week and a half ago, and I'll pick up a guitar and be playing a little riff and go, oh, that little line, the little refrain from whatever that poem was, that's the chorus of this song. That's what feels right. But I'm never actively trying to do it one way, I think, because when I do, I usually fail. Yeah, just try and let it come. Try and be ready.
Basically, a musician's version of free writing. Basically, you're on a guitar idea, then you come up with something. Yeah, I understand that. About how many instruments do you know how to play?
I mean, the instrument, if you asked anyone that was coming to see one of my shows, they would say I'm going to see him play guitar, because that's, when I first started playing music, that was the instrument I wanted to play. I heard Eric Clapton and I went, I want to play the guitar. And it's the one I'm best at. I kind of do this bluesy thing a lot, and people seem to like that. And I'm sort of, the guitar is very second nature to me. So that's what I play on stage, and that's what I usually play in general. But that being said, because I can play guitar, I can play the bass easily. And the piano was sort of a later addition to me, although I've always had, since I was a kid, this old Steinway baby grand sitting in my living room that was my mom's aunt's piano that was given to her. And I would sit at that and knowing not at all what I'm doing, and just start playing, and by ear and by knowing what different chord shapes sound like, just be playing around with it. And now I'm a fine piano player, and I definitely write on piano, but I'm never, I don't think I'm ever going to be a great piano player that's able to sit here and take keyboard solos. But that being said, the knowledge of how to play the piano is insanely helpful, especially when you talk about venturing into the digital realm, where, like I said, I can have a whole library of orchestral samples all triggered off a piano keyboard. Knowing then how a piano works is very important. But that being said, I think that the guitar is an extension of my voice to me, and I can really speak through it. So most of my energy sort of comes out there.
We'll have more with Simon Lunche right after this.
Okay, how many guitars do you currently own?
Oh man, probably 14. I don't know. In terms of ones that I play, though, I think it's much less. I have some that haven't gotten much use over the years. The real special ones to me are I have a vintage Stratocaster that I play all the time. I got that guitar when I was this guitar is interesting to me because it was my, I call it my full commit guitar, because I graduated from high school in 2016, and I had known all through high school, all through middle school, since I was a little kid, that as soon as I was done, I was going to just play music, and I was going to tour, and I was going to put all my energy into that. And even as a senior in high school, and I was going to the studio a lot of the days. But I graduated, and I knowing that I was going to be doing this, I had found this guitar that was a 56 Stratocaster, and one of my friends had a 56 Strat too that I'd played on a lot of my records, and I just loved it. Like, something about that guitar is just amazing. And I was in Seattle, and I saw this other 56 Stratocaster and played it, and was like, oh my God. And I wasn't going to buy the guitar. I'm thinking, like, this is just too expensive of a guitar. And it was actually my dad who said, well, what are you going to do with this money? You've got all this money that you've made or saved up. Like, you're not going to college. You're not going to spend it on tuition. Buy the guitar. And I called the shop back a few days later, and I said, hey, do you guys still have that guitar? And they said, yeah. And I said, can you ship it to me? And they shipped it to me. And so that guitar for me, which is it's a 1956 Stratocaster. It's blonde. really defined a lot of my sound now, because I started playing differently when I got that guitar. And it was really my introduction into, going from a rhythm guitar player to a lead guitar player. I had been a rhythm guitar player for years in a band that I was in. And not that I didn't have the capacity to play lead, I just didn't, because it wasn't my job. I wrote all the songs, I sang lead vocals, but I played rhythm guitar. And when I got this Stratocaster and when I sort of went solo and started working on this project, I realized I'm going to have to play lead guitar. And this guitar very much inspired my lead playing moving forward. So there's that. And then I've got an old Martin as well, acoustic, that I play all the time, that I got in LA while I was on tour. I found that guitar in a shop called Norm's Rare Guitars, and didn't have any money to pay for it, but I loved it. And what I did have was another guitar in my car, and I said, hey, will you guys trade, this guitar? I think I had a 55 Les Paul Jr. out in my car, and I said, will you guys trade me the Les Paul Jr. for the Martin? And they went, yeah. So that Martin too is very special to me and gets a lot of play. But I've got a variety of basses and various other Stratocasters and Les Pauls and other little sounds that I pull out, every once in a while when it's right for a song. But 9 times out of 10, I reach for the Stratocaster. I reach for my old Strat. I reach for my old Martin, because they just connect with me, and I've got a sound that I get out of them now that I love. Those are my guitars.
Yeah, either of them have a nickname?
I was in my own head, I think the acoustic guitar I call, just to myself, I call it Grace, but that's only because the day I bought it, or the day that I traded for it, was the same day that I wrote the song Grace. So I had experienced the song or the inspiration for the song the night previous, and the next day I went to the guitar store and I got this guitar and I wrote Grace on it. So I kind of always thought of it as Grace, but I never have told anyone that. And my Stratocaster doesn't have a name as of yet, but all the same, it's very loved.
Yeah, a lot of musicians that I talk to do not keep a guitar long enough sometimes to name it, or they feel that they don't want to get emotionally attached to it. But it's
Right.
always nice to see a musician give a name to something that's very sentimental to them. So it's great to be able to hear the lyrics as well. It's great to be able to hear that. It's crazy. It's crazy just to see how you developed as a musician, all that as well, and some of the guitars that you have had and all that as well. I know that you kind of trade off guitars in mid-set sometimes just because of conditions. Maybe it might be a little bit hot in the club and the tuning's a little bit differently, or
Yep.
the humidity's there and all that as well. So that must happen to you once in a while, and you have to do that mid-set or whatever. So that happens on an occasional basis, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I generally have 2 Stratocasters on stage with me. One is my main Strat that I play most of the set, and then I've got a backup which is there in case I break a string, in case whatever. Or I do also use it. I have a few songs that I play with a different tuning, so I'll have that guitar tuned to that sort of alternate tuning, so I can pick it up and play those songs on it. So yeah, I think I usually will play. It depends on the show. It depends on the songs I'm playing or with the set list, but I'll usually play 4 guitars in a night and hope that best case scenario, I'm not switching guitars because strings break, because that always sucks. But every once in a while, if you're playing hard, strings break, you pick up the other guitar sitting right next to you. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
I would be remiss not to ask, last week we lost probably one of the most influential guitarists of our generation, Eddie Van Halen. And tell me a little bit. Was he? Some of your thoughts on him. The guy was a genius. He was a maestro with the guitar. Tell me a little bit of thoughts about it.
It's just really sad. I think that's a guitar player. There's very few people touched like every single person that's picked up a guitar, and he is one of those people. I think that nearly everyone that plays, especially the electric guitar, but even the acoustic guitar, will say, "Oh, Eddie Van Halen." When I was younger, I watched his videos religiously, or when I was younger, I wanted to be him, or maybe they bought a guitar that looked like his, or painted on their wall that did that Eddie Van Halen classic red with the striped designs.